All right. Well, oh, got more people coming in. So my name is Carrie Bird. I am the reference and instruction librarian, and tonight I am going to walk you through the use of the library. We're going to start actually not on the library page, but on the college page to make sure you know where to find everything you need. And I do want to just check in for a second. Can y'all hear me okay? We're good? Everybody's got audio?
Good on my end.
Perfect. And back to sharing the screen. Okay. From the college homepage, a couple things I want you to see. Over here on this little sidebar menu, we have our UC login. And under UC login,
So sorry to
Sorry to
interrupt.
interrupt. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I was probably going to say the same thing. We do not see what you are seeing. We are looking at the meeting chat as well as all of our names. We don't
well,
see
that's
the correct
interesting.
screen.
Well, I'm glad you told me that because according to me, it's showing up that I'm sharing. So let me try that one more time. Share screen. Okay. Can y'all see me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I had the red outline that says I'm sharing the whole time, so I don't know what that was about, but thank you for interrupting me. Okay, let's try this again. So from the college homepage, we want to come to the little menu over here. We're going to go to our UC login. And just a couple things that we want to point out to y'all to make sure that you're aware of them, and it is going to make me log in. It's going to make me log in. What is it doing? Why is technology like this? I ask you. Let's try this again. There we go. So anytime you're using any of the resources I demonstrate tonight, you have to be logged in through your UC login. Now, once you're logged in, whether that's here in one of the library resources, in your iLearn or your email or whatever, you'll be logged in, so you won't see this screen repeatedly, but this is the login that you use to get into all of the library resources. Now, for some of those resources, you might want to create an account, and you can do that, and we'll talk about some of the ones where that's the most beneficial option. What is happening? Nothing is wanting to load for me tonight. Okay. Okay, so a couple things that I want to point out to you. Number one is Microsoft 365. If you do not currently have Office and you would like access to it through the college, you can do that. This would be instead of having to use something like Google Docs or LibreOffice. Those are great options, but if you want access to Microsoft, you can get it through the college. The other thing that we want to point out to you is Grammarly. Grammarly is a grammar application, and we pay for it for you, so you don't have to actually sign in here. It's going to scoot you on through with your UC login, maybe, if anything works tonight. I'm jinxing myself, I can just tell. All right. There is definitely something going on. Okay, so if I come in here, I can go to my documents, I can go to my apps, I can go to my version history, and I can see all of the things I've done. So this is like my demo that I've done before, right? So you can view that in your app, or you can view it here. Either of those is fine. But this is going to let you can download it and it'll run alongside your Word. You can install it to work with your browser. You can put it on your phone, and it's going to make grammatical suggestions, formatting suggestions, all of that good stuff to you. So all of these apps are available for you. It will kind of recognize what you're on. So if I was on an Apple computer or an iPhone, it would recognize that. It'll recognize my browser. So just be aware that this is a great little tool for you. And it can do things like check for plagiarism. Not because people are necessarily deliberately committing plagiarism, but because sometimes we forget to go back and cite a source, things like that. So it's always nice to have that option available to us. Okay. Back to the college we go. Back to the university we go, I should say. Now, from here to get to the library, we're going to click on academics. We're going to click on library. And then we're going to go to research guides / library resources. And this is where all the good stuff is. So out here in the middle of the page, you will see our library hours. These hours may change due to things like holidays, or we have slightly different hours during the summer than we do in the fall and spring, or if there's inclement weather and for some reason people have to close down campus. All of those are reasons that the hours could change. Now, as far as that goes, as long as I have power and internet at my house, I will do my best to keep these hours updated. So if you're ever not sure, you can always come here. You can also contact us directly. Even if we're working from home because campus has some issue, we're doing our best to get back to you promptly. And that includes being on library chat. In the summer, we're on until 5 o'clock. In the regular term, we're on until 9 p.m. So we try to be as available as possible for you. Over on the left-hand side, we have about the library. This is where you can find things like our policies and procedures. We have Ask a Librarian. This is great, especially if you have a quick question. If the chat is not online, you can submit an Ask a Librarian and it will email myself and all of the other, yeah, I've lost the plot. It will email myself and all of the other faculty librarians so that we will all get back to you as quickly as possible. That way you're not waiting on one person. Whoever gets to it first will respond to you, and that makes your life a little bit easier. But you are, of course, welcome to reach out to any of us. And get a direct contact as well. You can send an email, you can give us a call. We're happy to meet with you one-on-one. We're happy to set up a Teams meeting, whatever is most accessible to you to get you the assistance that you need. Okay, we have citation help, and we're going to circle back to citation help. We have our books and ebooks. Now, all of our books and ebooks are available through UC Search, but if you wanted to view a particular ebook collection, you could certainly do that by coming to the ebooks list. So if you wanted to look at something in the Credo reference collection, for example, you would come to this link. We have our FAQ, we have our feedback form, interlibrary loan. Interlibrary loan is a way for you to request materials that we don't own. The process has changed a little bit, so if you've used it before, you might want to watch the tutorials that are available now just to kind of give you an idea of how that works. But fortunately, this has actually sped it up. So if you need an article or like a book chapter or something that can come in electronically, they now come in very quickly, and you're going to submit all of it through the UC Search system. Very easy peasy. So make sure you go through those tutorials. We don't charge you anything for interlibrary loan. If you borrow a physical item from us that has to be shipped to you, we don't charge you shipping. So unless you lose or somehow catastrophically damage a physical item, the only thing you're ever going to pay is return shipping. Okay. And if you have questions at any time, please feel free to ask them in the chat. Let me see. What's the commonly asked questions about interlibrary loan? Do we charge fees? No. How long do you get to keep items for? If it's a physical item, it is yours for 30 days, and then you can request two-week renewals. If it is a digital item, those are yours to keep. Laptop checkout. These are kind of really limited to people local to the area. So not necessarily only on-campus students, but students who are adjacent to campus, because we only check them out for either a daytime period. So if you check it out before 3 o'clock, it's due back at 3 o'clock. If you check it out after 3 o'clock, it's due back the next day. So they are a little bit more limited. So if you're not local, that's not tremendously useful to you. But if you are local, just know that we have that available. You've clearly figured out the library orientation sessions, but this link is where the recordings will be made available. We have our library tutorials. A lot of these tutorials deal with using UC Search, but there are some other tutorials here to help you out, and you can find other orientation recordings here as well. We have a makerspace, and again, if you're not local, this may not be terribly convenient for you, but the makerspace is available. And if you happen to come to campus for any reason, and just even if you're not local, if you're on campus for a residency and you need a laptop, if you're on campus for a residency and you want to check out the makerspace, you are more than welcome to come visit us and do that. We're always happy to see folks come into the library, even if you're not always on campus. We also have our Appalachian collection, which includes the Governor Burt T. Combs papers. These are more rare books, so we typically would not mail them out to people, but if we can, or we can scan something in, or whatever we can do to accommodate you to get the materials you need, we'll do our best to do that. We have study rooms in the library, and again, if you're not local, that's not terribly helpful to you, but if you do come to campus, I encourage you to make a reservation for the study room if you feel like you're going to need a place to post up for a few hours, because those spaces really do fill up very quickly. We have our UC search. UC search is what we call our discovery search, which is a very fancy way of saying it searches almost everything we have at the same time to help you discover things. There are a few exceptions to the rule for that, but by and large, UC search will scoop up pretty much everything we have. Now, there are pros and cons to that, and when we get into doing some live searching, you'll kind of get to see what those pros and cons look like, but just be aware that that exists. We also have Find Journals by Title, which can help you find a specific article or journal and see if we have it available. We have our databases A to Z, which is an alphabetical listing of all the databases to which we subscribe. Now, this is very handy if you know what database you want and you can go straight to it. However, if you don't know what database you want, that's a little bit trickier, and that brings us over to our research guides. Our research guides are organized by subject. So if you're in business, you want to look at the business guide. If you're in counseling, you want to look at the counseling guide, etc. So in order to kind of give me a guide to whatever our best sources to look at tonight are, can y'all tell me who I have? Are you counseling, education, business, IT, coaching? Who do I got with me tonight?
Counseling.
Counseling.
I know there's going to be a lot of counseling folks for sure. Accounting, IT.
Counseling.
Okay, so I'm going to give folks a minute to go ahead and put that in the chat or to speak up. And in the meantime, I'm going to start opening our guides so that we can look at them. So we've got business, which includes accounting. We've got our counseling. We've got, oops, I went too far, information systems and technology. Is there anybody I missed? IT, AI, counseling. Okay, so let's start with these, and if anybody adds themselves to the list later, we'll go into that. So as you can see, all of the guides look very similar, and that is on purpose. That is to make it easy for you to maneuver through these guides quickly. Okay, so we have for counseling, the top resources page, and then we come down to the end. We have for business and Impact IT, we have our top resources page, and we come down to the end and we have some tutorials available to you. Okay, so we also have our citation help tools. All of you are going to be using APA style. Now, we just got a new APA resource that's not on here yet because we got it today after I had signed out, so I haven't added it yet. But we do have now the online version of the APA style manual. That'll be going up sometime tomorrow. The Learning Commons. The Learning Commons is the best place for you to get citation help. It's not me, trust me. You do not want citation help from me. I didn't like APA when I had to do it as a student, and I don't intend to get better at it. So, the experts are the folks at the Learning Commons. They have people who can read and review your papers, make suggestions and corrections for you. They are a great resource if you have citation questions or you need specific formatting help. So take advantage of the experts and feel free to reach out and contact them. You can visit them via their website, you can email them, or you can call them. I want you to make a little mental note of the DOI right here because we're going to come back to that. Now, while we haven't put the APA manual up yet, what we do have up is Academic Writer. And we love Academic Writer. And I want to talk a little bit about Academic Writer, but I also just want to talk about, are y'all currently using, I'm going to pop you back up so I can make sure I don't miss anything in chat. Who is currently using any kind of bibliographic manager? And when we talk about bibliographic manager, that's just a nice way to say citation manager. So that would be the Purdue OWL, EndNote, RefWorks, Perla. There's a whole bunch of other ones that I'm not, Zotero, Mendeley. So Academic Writer is in the same family as those. And the reason that we specifically provide access to Academic Writer is because it is considered the authoritative resource, because it is created and maintained by the APA. And so in theory, nobody knows more about the APA formatting than the APA. Right? So that is why we provide access to Academic Writer specifically. So when we get into Academic Writer, this is one of the resources that you're going to want to create an account for, because even though it's going to log me in through my UC first, I still want to create an account that's under me and not just as a UC member. So I'm going to click go to my references, and when I do that, it's going to ask me to sign in. If I've never signed in before, I can create an account. If I've already got an account, I can log in. Now, you're going to see that I have a big old long-tailed list of references, and like every semester, I'm going to say, I really need to come in here and delete some of these. But you can see that many of them have these little grayed out tags, and when I click on these tags, it takes me to all of the citations I have saved under that. So this is going to help me organize my citation information, right? I'm going to know what I've assigned to what papers, and I can see if I've assigned something to more than one paper, but this is going to help me keep my data together. Now, I can add references by clicking Add References and choosing from this list of references. And if I do that, so let's say I want to add a journal article, I can fill in all of this information and make my reference generate for me. Or I can click on import. And when I click on import, I'm going to upload my citation that I have previously downloaded. And we're a little bit backwards when we do this, but I will show you how to download a citation later. So for now, I'm going to select my file origin, which does not matter. They make you select your file origin, but I need you to know in your heart that this does not matter. So if your file origin is not listed here because you got it from Project Muse and Project Muse is not in the list, that's okay. Just pick one. You don't see JSTOR in the list? That's okay. Just pick one. We're going to choose a file. And here's my most recent RIS file. So I'm going to hit submit. That's going to upload it to me, and I can view my imported record, and my record that I did most recently is going to be right here. And so I can come in here and say, okay, is this citation correct? Is there anything I need to change? Do I want to add a tag to it? So I can come in and do any of my editing that I need to do. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and do allergic to everything because we've been cleaning in the library. It's very dusty and my allergies are outraged at my behavior. So I'm going to click update reference and then I can go to my references. I'm going to come back up for just a second. Make sure I know who my authors are for when I go to the next step. So now that I've updated my reference, everything's saved, I can go back to my references and that reference will be in my list. So if I click my tag, I will see my new reference somewhere in here. Okay. Now, my next thing that I can do, and this is very simple, right? This is nothing that the other bibliographic managers can't do. What sets Academic Writer apart is not necessarily the way that it organizes your references, because this is very regular. Every reference organizer is pretty much doing this. What sets Academic Writer apart is when we come over to the right portion of this. Now I can either start a new paper, and you're going to see that there's a lot of different templates I can choose from, or I can go into a paper that already exists, which is what I'm going to do tonight. And I'm going to go into my allergy paper and I'm going to show you kind of some of the things that you can do here. So I can create my title page. I can create my author page and you can see that I appear here multiple times. And I can also work on the body of my paper. Now, I do not necessarily recommend writing your whole entire document in Academic Writer. You could, and they have focus mode now, which means you can pop it up and get a slightly bigger screen if you want. What I want to say about this is two things. Write wherever you feel comfortable. If you like Google Docs, do it in Google Docs. If you like Office, do it in Office. If you think Academic Writer is the bee's knees, go crazy, okay? No matter where you are writing, you should be backing up your work. If it's on your computer, then you might want to back it up to an external drive or to the cloud. If it's on the cloud, you might want to download it and make sure it's on your computer or a thumb drive. But nothing that is important should only be stored one place because stuff happens, right? Maybe the internet is down and you can't get to Academic Writer when you want to do some work on your paper. Maybe you forget your passwords and you can't get back into something. Maybe your computer crashes and you don't have access to your hard drive. Anything can happen. So it's important to make sure that you are backing up your work. One nice thing about Academic Writer is the collaborate feature. So if you have students in your classes that you are working with, you can collaborate with them and let them have editorial powers also. But what I like about Academic Writer is the way it lets me set up my citations. Okay. I am terrible at APA. I did not have to learn APA until I was in grad school, and MLA has fully ingrained itself on my brain in an inescapable way. So what does that mean for me? I want to insert a reference into this paper. I'm going to find and cite a reference, and one of the authors on my new paper was Sorby. So I'm going to find them. Here's my article. I'm going to click Cite. I'm going to select it. I'm going to click Cite. And then I'm going to say that this is a parenthetical and that it is a quotation. And I'm going to put in my page number, which as always is fully made up. And I'm going to type in some nonsense. And you'll notice I'm not doing any real punctuation or formatting or anything else. Now, if this was a real quote from a real paper, I would copy and paste that in here. But I'm just making nonsense up. So we're going to go with it. I don't need to put any punctuation. I don't need to put my author names. I'm going to hit submit. and it's going to do all of that for me. So here is my in-text citation. This makes life much easier for me because even if I don't want to write my paper here, I can use this to help me generate my citations. When I do this, it also adds these to my reference list. Now, I can add things to my reference list without doing this, but if I want help generating my in-text citations and my reference list, this is a really easy way to do that because now I can come out here to export. I can download my paper. I'm going to download it in Word so it's an editable file, but I do have the option to only do my reference list. Version 20 something. It's time to clear that one out and get a new example. Okay. So, oh, all of the documents I already had open. Okay, here we go. So now I'm going to click Enable Editing, and you're going to see that it's got my title page set up, and that includes my page number and my header on the second page. And then as I scroll down, I've got my reference list. Now, a couple of things that are really important. Number one, at the end of the day, you are responsible for your own proofreading, copy editing, whatever you want to call it. This tool is just a tool. If there's something wrong with the document you import, there's going to be something wrong with what you export, right? So if the file you put in with your citation had something wrong with it, that's going to carry through to your paper. So you still need to be aware of your correct formatting, and you still need to come in and make sure that there's no corrections that need to be done. But this is just going to speed your process along. So having said that, there's a couple issues here. So, two that we need to talk about. Number one is the impact of positive behavior intervention and support. And number two is advanced placement and dual enrollment. Okay, they are both missing. Well, I lied. Okay, they are both missing their DOI. What is the DOI? The DOI is a digital object identifier. So let's go back to our citation page. Let's go back to our reference list. So if I go to my references and I look at this document here and I'm like, okay, I need to look at this one from Bowers and Foley. Must be on page 2. So I have a URL, but I don't have a DOI. According to APA, you should use the DOI when the DOI is available. If no DOI is available, you would use the URL. But first, we need to verify that that DOI doesn't exist. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my URL that I have and I'm going to paste it into my browser. And I'm going to see if that article has a DOI when it appears in the database. Okay. And click my citation button. No DOI here. So, oh, but it's in Brazilian standard. So let me make sure that if I switch it to APA, it doesn't pop up. Okay, no. So now what I want to do is I want to copy the title of my article. And I want to go search in Crossref. See, I did tell you we would get back to Crossref eventually. So here's my Crossref. I'm going to paste that in. And I want to see if anything comes up. So my article does not come up. That means in all likelihood, this article does not have a DOI. DOI stands for Digital Object Identifier. I may have said that already. What that means is that this particular number has been assigned to this particular edition of this particular article. So if that article were to get republished elsewhere in the future, or that article were to get republished because it had been edited, then a new DOI would be assigned, right? So What you're essentially saying is I used this version. So if anybody comes back and says, well, I looked this article up and I didn't see XYZ, well, it was republished 5 years later with an edit, okay? That's why. So you want to be able to say which version of an article you use. This is very similar to just the barcode on the back of a book or the ISSN or ISBN on an article or a book, right? Those tie to a very specific thing. Your DOI is the same thing. If you put in a URL because the article that you are using only has a URL, which the article that we are using only has a URL, that's the only option available to us, you can expect that there may be some pushback from your professor saying, why didn't you use the DOI? That doesn't mean you can't use this article. This is a perfectly acceptable source. But you need to be able to say, I checked in the database, I checked in Crossref, no DOI was available. And I guarantee you, your professors are checking. I know your professors are checking because they call me and ask me to check when they can't find something. So don't try to fudge it. Make sure you're actually checking for a DOI if it doesn't download with one, or if you're having a hard time finding one, go to Crossref. If it's not in the database and it's not in Crossref, you can pretty much say no DOI is available, because anywhere else that you would find a DOI, Crossref should be pulling from. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Any questions on any of this? No? No questions? All right, we're going to keep moving then. Going back to our browser window. So that's the end of Academic Writer. It's pretty straightforward. It's a very nice tool to have. We're going to keep moving. So let me close some windows here. All right, so after we get to our citation help, we have our websites. All of these websites are tailored to be things that are related to your area of study. So either professional organizations or resources your professors have asked us to share. We also have government documents. Again, these are tailored to your area of study. So for information support, some of our GovDocs are related to cybersecurity, things like that. For counseling, we've got links to CDC and mental health resources, all of that good stuff, right? So as we go through, again, you're going to see that these things kind of tie in. All right. So then we have our multimedia page. Now, counseling folks, you are our multimedia power users. This is your area. Your professors love a video. And typically your videos are going to come from Films on Demand or Alexander Street. We'd love to see those resources getting used, but if you ever have a link that doesn't work to a video, you can always look it up either in UC Search or in one of these specific databases by title. We have our books and ebooks. Now, again, all of these books and ebooks are available through UC Search, but if there's ever a specific resource that you're trying to access, you're welcome to come here to get it. For the counseling folks, and a little bit for the education folks, if we've got any, DSM-5 and DSM-5-TR are available full text as online resources. We've got those pulled out here for you. We have additional resources for all of our students. One that I want to particularly make sure to point out is the statistical abstract. The stat abstract is one of the very few resources that does not integrate into UC Search, and that is because essentially it is a weird little guy. If you come in here and you go to like science and technology, for example, you can search this, but let's say that we want to, actually, let's see if there's anything on artificial intelligence in here yet. Yeah, one thing. Okay, that's all right. It's a new topic, and this is from the government, so it takes a while. So everything that's in the statistical abstract is a document that is reported to the federal government or by the federal government, right? So this is information compiled by the government. These are not articles. These are not interpretations. This is literally just raw data, okay? So you can come in here and you can say, okay, this is how they've organized it. Business firm use of selected digital technologies by industry. Okay. You can see the citation information, who gathered the information. This was from the census. Oops. Didn't mean to go to the census, but you can come in here and you can explore that information. So because this is a weird little guide, you can see there's not really a good way for them to format this that it would integrate into UC Search, but just be aware that it is here and available for use. Okay. So some of the other additional resources are Learning Express Library. There are practice tests in there for a lot of different fields, and we encourage you to go in there and take advantage of that. We do have some specific resources linked on the top resources page for counseling for like the NCE, but there's also some stuff in Learning Express Library for any education people who need to take the praxis. There are practice exams there. All good stuff. Now, one resource that I do want to point out is Mental Measurements Yearbook and Test and Print. There are some folks who are a little bit confused about whether or not the library has it. We do. It's right there. So make sure you're taking advantage of that as well. Okay, journals, counseling journals. Now, counseling is not completely unique because we do have journal pages for some of our other resources, but counseling is unique in that we have a lot. I think the only other one that we have this much for is maybe nursing. And these journals are purchased what we call a la carte. That means we buy the journals individually. We cannot necessarily buy counseling and values as part of one of our databases, but we want our students to have access to it, so we purchase it separately. Okay. So when I go into an EBSCO database and I do this search, this is not going to come up. I may find things on this topic, but this journal will not come up. If you are interested in one of the topics that these journals list out, it may be beneficial to you to come explore that separately. related and a lot of results that aren't necessarily related. For example, self-care for stomas is probably not the context that you are looking for, right? So there are things to consider when you are exploring your topic. Okay. We can set some limiters here to help us with that, such as saying we only want to see articles from peer-reviewed journals and saying that we only want to see things that are available online full text. That gets me down to 368,000. If I come over to my subject-specific databases and I set those same filters, I'm going to say full text, and I'm going to say peer-reviewed, and we'll talk about these in detail. Then I get down to under 70,000. We're going to make this smaller. We're going to say that we only want to see things from the past 5 years for all of you, regardless of whether you're counseling, business, accounting, education, IT, unless you are specifically researching a historical topic, you will most likely be limited to the latest 10 years at most, typically the latest 5 to 7. So I now have 17,000. This is still too many. We're going to fix it. But this is too many results. Research tells us that people rarely go past 3 pages. So if you have 20 pages of results, you are going to struggle to find the targeted information that you need because your search is so large. So the more we can target and pinpoint our search, the better off we are. This is especially true for those of you who are doing or planning to do a PhD or EDD. You are going to have to do what is called an exhaustive search or a thorough search. And that means you are supposed to run that puppy into the ground. You're supposed to find everything ever written about this ever, all the way down as far as you can go, which is fine. But the bigger your search is, the broader your topic is, the more difficult that becomes. So, in order to do an exhaustive search, you need a precision target. You need your topic to be as specific as possible. Now, sometimes you need to work with your topic a little bit in order to be able to get it to that precision target, right? You need to explore a little bit and see what's out there and decide what direction you want to go. And in that case, it's okay to be a little bit broader. Like if I'm doing an exhaustive search, I can't click that full text button because I need to see what's out there that I might want to request from interlibrary loan, right? But if I'm just doing a basic search or if I'm not doing my PhD, I can zero in here and say I only want to see full text. What does full text mean? Full text means show me only articles I have immediate access to. So if I click that button, that means I'm only going to see results that I have immediately available to me. So if you have ever done a search and you've gotten in here and you've gotten frustrated because you click on it and the whole article isn't there, and you go back and you click on the next one and the whole article isn't there, and you're like, where are the articles? Click on full text. There are the articles. If you've clicked full text, you're only going to see things that are available. When we click on peer-reviewed, please note peer-reviewed articles, scholarly articles, academic articles are all the same thing. Those terms are interchangeable. Some professors may use slightly different language, some databases may use slightly different language, but those 3 terms can be interchanged with each other. So if you are looking for the scholarly button, you don't see it, but there's a peer-reviewed button, that's it. That's your button, right? So watch out for that because even if you're doing an exhaustive search, you're going to want to limit things to only peer-reviewed resources. Okay. What is peer review? What makes these articles important and valuable over any other article? Is the concept that expertise has value. So as an author, I am going to write about my area of expertise. I'm not going to be writing about psychology because I'm not a psychologist. I am not a counselor. This is not my area. So I'm going to confine myself to my area of expertise. My editors, and in this case, my peer reviewers are my editors, that's the terminology, are people who are my peers in the field. So I expect them to have the same professional background and knowledge that I would have. And as things become more specialized, that peer becomes more specialized also. In other words, if I'm a scientist, my peers are not just other scientists. I need to have my neurologist paper read by other neurologists, right? So it becomes more specific. And then on top of my peer reviewers, I also have peer readers. I expect my readers to be experts in their field, and that means I can use professional language and technical terminology, which is a good visual cue for me if I'm on the fence about whether or not an article is peer-reviewed, whether or not an article meets those scholarly criteria. Is it written for a public audience or is it written for a specific audience, right? The other visual cues that you can look for are expert references, right? So we've got expert writers, expert editors, expert readers, and expert references. When you write a paper, you cite your sources. When they write a paper, they cite their sources, right? So if you're looking at something and you're, again, on the fence about whether or not it meets those qualifications and you look at the sources and you're not confident, that's your indication. If there's no resources, no references, no works cited, whatever you want to call it at the end of that, or in the footnotes of it, that is not a scholarly paper, period. Okay? These tend to be a little bit longer. They tend to be a little bit more in depth. So we want to make sure that we are getting the most bang for our buck when it comes to that, because we want to make sure that we're getting only relevant information. I don't want to read a 20, 30, 40 page paper and have it turn out to not be helpful to me, right? So let's look at this one, for example, and see if it's got any good information for me. So two things that I want to look at. Well, first, let's look at the details. We want to see our authors, and it's going to tell me who my authors are, and this can help me decide whether or not these authors are good resources, right? So I'm looking at a sort of medical related field. All of my authors are in medical related offices, so I know that's a good sign, right? I want to read my abstract, even though sometimes they're annoying. I would rather read 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs than 30 pages and find out that it's not relevant, right? I also want to look at my subjects. If I'm having a hard time finding the exact language I need for my search and I can look at my subjects, these might also be called keywords or author supplied keywords, then that can help me aim my search a little better. I will know better what direction I want to go in. Okay. We've got our DOI here. So when I come back up, if I go to my references, I can see everyone that this article cited. And some of them are going to have something that says cited by. And I would like to try and find an example of that for you, but I need to go a little further back in time. Let me just click on a random middle of the road page here. See if I can get a couple years back. No, that's still 2025. That didn't get me further back at all. But this one says cited by 17, so we'll take it. Okay. So when we talk about the reference list versus the cited by list, the reference list is always going to be older than the article I am reading because this article cited them, so it had to have them, they had to exist beforehand, right? The citation list is always going to be newer than the article I am reading because they read the article that I'm in and said, this is relevant to my research, and they included it in their citation list, right? So one of these lets you work backwards, one of these lets you look forward. So just be aware that these are here and that they can help you continue to build out your search. Okay, let's go back to our results list because we still have too many results. So what can we do to narrow our search down? This is where Boolean modifiers come into play. You can see that there's a button up here that says natural language searching. Google uses natural language searching. Most search engines use natural language searching, and that means that they search the way that we speak, which is why I can say, "Hey Google, what was that episode of Star Trek with the dog in a hat that was supposed to be an alien, but it was definitely a Pomeranian?" And Google is going to figure that out with some degree of accuracy, right? Google is normally pretty good at that specific type of task. The things we need to keep in mind with Google versus a database, with a search engine versus a database, but particularly with Google. Number one, a lot of times now we're seeing our first results come up as AI. And those AI interpretations are not always 100% accurate. Even the AI will tell you it's not always 100% accurate. Number two, a lot of the top results are often advertisements. Okay? They're selling you something. And number three, databases do not have the same kind of algorithm that search engines do. So Google has a learning algorithm. The more searches you do, the more Google learns about you. The more Google products you use, the more Google learns about you. And the more Google learns about you, the more it's going to try and tailor your searches to your interests. So what that means is it's using kind of a predictive algorithm to say what it thinks you want. So, for example, if Angela is researching toasters and Ava is researching toasters, and one of you is a Battlestar Galactica fan, you may get different results because in Battlestar Galactica, the bad guys are often called toasters, right? So you may get two different sets of results because Angela is a big old nerd and Ava is just looking for a toaster, right? So, exactly, exactly. So, Google is predicting what it thinks you want. That can dictate the outcome of your results, right? It's giving you a direction that it thinks you're expecting. The databases are not built for that. Even if we use natural language searching in the databases, they are not a learning algorithm in the same way. Having said that, natural language searching in the databases is fairly new and it's also not particularly good. So I want us to stay within the Boolean modifiers that we know can help us succeed. When we talk about predictive algorithms like in Google, we also have inherent bias, and AI also has inherent bias. Not because it's necessarily bad or villainous, but because it's pulling from materials created by people, and people have inherent biases, right? So AI learns from us, and those biases carry into AI's results. Databases are not built for that. Databases are, you give me a question with these keywords, I give you results with these keywords. So that removes some of the bias. However, we can still put predictive language into our searches. For example, if I put the benefits of self-care in here, that presumes that self-care has a specific benefit. Now, we can sort of personally presume that self-care has benefits, but in terms of the research perspective, we want to know about self-care in general. We don't only want to know about the benefits. Are there negatives to self-care? Can people become too bogged down in self-care? My dermatologist would say, yes, quit putting stuff all over your face. She keeps telling me, I'm like, oh, is there some kind of mask? No, don't use anything. Okay. So the doctors would say you can go too far into self care, right? You can be too into it. So you want to make sure that you are using more neutral language, right? So think about that in terms of how you are phrasing things like what is the impact? What is the outcome? What is the benefit? Does it have an impact? Does it have an outcome? Does it have a benefit? Or does it just exist in a neutral space? The more of that kind of language you use, the more bias you introduce into your search. Okay, so we're going to say self-care. And right now, there's a Boolean modifier. There's a Boolean modifier already in my search, and that is the word and. Self and care. That's what I'm searching for. Anytime we use multiple keywords, there's an invisible and there. You don't really ever have to type it out. And is always going to be there between my terms. Now, the exception to that is if I do something to get rid of it. So in this case, I'm going to put self-care into quotation marks. And now I've gone from 17,000 to 2,000. That's still too big, by the way. You should be shooting for optimally under 1,000 results, but this is getting us somewhere. Putting things into quotation marks means that instead of searching for multiple keywords, I'm searching for a key phrase. Self-care is now going to appear only as I have written it, in the order I have written it, with the spelling I have written it in. So if you have a typo in here and there exists in the world one other article with that typo, I can tell you right now what your result is going to be. Okay? So we've made it very specific, but we need to make it more specific. So we're going to add another term to it so we can mix this up. So I'm going to put in self-care and counseling. Now I'm down to 254 results, but I think I want to go bigger, okay? Because now I'm searching for self-care and counseling. What if I want to know about self-care and counselors? What if I want to know about self-care and people who are counseled? If I truncate this, and I'm going to blow this up a little bit because I know this is so hard for people to see every time. If I put an asterisk at the end of the word counsel, that is called truncation. And if I truncate my word, my results will go up because now I'm looking for counseling, counseled, counselor, counselors, all of those possible suffixes. My results didn't go up a ton, which is good, but it did expand a little bit. And truncation is particularly important for those of you who are going to have to do those exhaustive searches because you don't have to search for each suffix individually. That's a hassle, right? So truncation lets us search for all the possible suffixes of a word in one fell swoop. Okay, so now my search has gotten a little bit more specific. We're getting in the right direction. I'm under 500, which feels good and feels manageable. But are there other terms I could play with? So the 5 main Boolean modifiers, there are more, but the 5 main ones that work in all the databases and most search engines are and you'll never see me type and out because it just sort of exists in the background. We don't have to. And, or, not, quotation marks, and truncation. Okay, so we've done and, we've done quotation marks, we've done truncation. Let's talk about or. So one of the terms that the database keeps suggesting in terms of self-care is self-management. So let's put in self-management on the other side. And then we're also going to always mirror our search when we're using synonymous terms. And we're going to build our search out. So now we have 394. So the database is treating self-care and self-management as synonymous. So I want to include that in my search. And I want to include my other modifier here as well, which is counseling, counsel, asterisk. So I'm going to mirror my search to get both of those terms, right? So if I'm using a synonymous term like self-care to self-management, I want to mirror the rest of my search. Okay, so we've got and, or, quotation marks, truncation, and that leaves us with not. We have to get rid of something. And we're going to get rid of our patients. So I went back to just counseling, and we're going to say not patients. my search goes back down. So if I want to focus on counseling professionals as my area versus teaching self-care to the people I'm counseling, I need to get rid of those people. So I'm going to get rid of my patients. I could also have potentially said clients here, for example. So I want to use not to take something out of my search. Maybe there's something that's overwhelming my search. Maybe I'm getting too many results focused on one specific area and it's keeping me from finding the results that I'm looking for. I can take that out. For example, in education, if you're working with neurodivergent students, the bulk of that research is related to autism. If I wanted to see articles relating to other student groups, I could say not autism. And I could even truncate that so I could get rid of autism and autistic at the same time, right? So if I was doing English language learners in the United States, the bulk of that research is focused around Spanish speakers. If I wanted to take them out, I could do that. So, and or not, quotation marks, and truncation. Those are your 5 big ones, and they will work across the board. The other thing I want y'all to see is what happens if I want to find a particular article. So I'm going to come down to let's go to my cited by. Now, sometimes these will have links. They will be blue. If you go to the references, you'll probably see a few more that are like that. And that means I can click, it will say check for full text. I'm going to click through and I'm going to find that. But sometimes that's not available, and that means it's probably not available in the specific databases that we're in. That doesn't mean I can't get it. So I'm going to say I want to view this particular article. Now, these may not be available because they're not actually out yet, because you can see that the journal name and information is not fully here yet. But let's see if we can find one of these. If we can't, we'll go back and we'll use a reference. I'm not going to be able to do this because it's not giving me my journal name. Let me take my DOI and look. Let's see what my DOI will get me. Here we go. So that's from the British Journal of Social Work. So what I can do is we're going to pretend the full text is not here because that's not going to help us right now. I need to demonstrate this. So I want to see if this article is available to me in any of the databases. So I'm going to take the title of my article and I'm going to come back to the library homepage and I'm going to go to find journals by title. And first I'm going to search by the journal title. And if it is available full text, it will pop up and autocomplete like that for me. And I can say it's available online. And it says the most recent year is not available. So there is what they call an embargo on this. So if it wasn't available out in the big open internet like this, I would want to request it from Interlibrary Loan. Okay, but that's going to let you see what we have and where we have it and what availability we have for it. And that prevents you from having to wait on Interlibrary Loan. Interlibrary Loan is great, but it does take time. If you can get it immediately or with just a couple extra steps, why wouldn't you do that? Okay. If you are here because your professors require you to be here, or have offered you extra credit to be here, or are treating this as an assignment for you to be here, I'm going to paste a survey into the chat. You have to complete the survey. Okay? There is nothing I can do about this without the survey being completed, because even though I know who you are, I don't have a way to know who your professors are unless you complete the survey so that I can tell them that you attended. I am here for you to ask me any questions. Otherwise, once you complete the survey, you are free to go. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm having issues getting the link to open for me.
Oh, let me try pasting it again. And if that still doesn't work, if you can send me an email, I will email it to you, and that will certainly work. I'll put my email in the chat just in case. And if
It opened that time. Thank you so
okay,
much.
good. Perfect. Yes, it was recorded and it will be available on the orientation page linked from the library homepage. It probably won't be available until next week because for some reason it takes YouTube so long to get them uploaded once I upload them, but it does go up eventually.